The coup has crumbled, and Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev is back in power, his limo zipping through the Moscow streets in the early morning hours.
And President Bush spoke for many Americans when he talked to Gorbachev and learned he was back in power.
And it's a good day. It's a very good day.
I'm Colleen Needles. Find out why the coup crumbled and what's next.
I'm Don Shelby. We'll also show you if the state fair is ready for the thousands of people on opening day, and we're going to hear from a singing fair pig from Iowa, no lie.
Plus, the Twins try to keep their dome luck going against Seattle.
And we'll also take some time in Dimension to get a different perspective on the Soviet events from the top-ranking Soviet journalist living in Minnesota. This is a special edition of the 10 o'clock news, the victory of Mikhail Gorbachev over the Moscow coup.
Fireworks and cheering at 3 o'clock in the morning as the Soviet people celebrate the return of Mikhail Gorbachev. They're still crowding in front of the Russian Federation building this morning, as you may have seen on 48 Hours just before our news. In Moscow, it is 6 a.m. It is the start of a new day, both literally and figuratively.
And the coup crumbled after 3 days of tension and at least 4 people dead. But now the hardline communists are deposed and reform may speed up. We're going to look at all of that. First off, the question is, where is Gorbachev? He should be heading into Moscow soon after spending a few hours at his home on the outskirts of Moscow. We have the only picture available of Gorbachev arriving. It is a still photo of him getting off the plane in Moscow taken by the Associated Press, and you will probably see this picture on the front page of your newspapers sometime tomorrow. But the question is, what happened to the coup leaders, and why did their efforts fail?
Cindy Hilger has been gathering the various world media reports on that in the Satellite Center. And Cindy, what explanations have you been hearing?
Well, Colleen, nobody seems to have a good handle on where the 8 coup leaders are at this hour. CNN is reporting the KGB chief was arrested tonight after he and 3 others traveled to the Crimea today to meet with Gorbachev. CNN also reports Gorbachev would not meet with them. The other 4 were reportedly on their way to an area in the southernmost part of the Soviet Union. All the networks are reporting Moscow's chief criminal prosecutor is investigating their activities and will prosecute. Tonight, every network dealt with the question, why did the coup fail? CBS and ABC concentrated on the military angle, saying the top leaders of the Soviet military never gave definitive orders to attack. Pentagon sources told reporters the planning was so bungled that the key decisions were left to local commanders who never really supported the coup leaders.
The bottom line from here is that Boris Yeltsin, democracy, and the people of Moscow may have won, but only because the Red Army, the largest force on earth, never really bought into this coup.
NBC quotes Pentagon sources who said the troops in Moscow didn't have the stomach for violent fights with its own people. NBC also said the leaders made a strategic error by never switching off radios, televisions, or telephones. ABC reports the key mistake the coup leaders made was not capturing Boris Yeltsin. Troops reportedly went to his home early Monday morning just after arresting Gorbachev. Yeltsin, however, left 40 minutes before troops arrived. Then last night, ABC reports Yeltsin called each coup leader and helped split the group with his phone calls. Yeltsin reportedly told each leader the world would never forgive the man who gave the order to fire on people who only want to be free. And we have one final note about President Gorbachev. He is scheduled to give his first speech since this coup began. That speech is going to be at 2 o'clock in the morning, our time, and we just got word from CNN they're frantically trying to wire the auditorium where he is speaking to broadcast that speech throughout the world live. That's at 2 a.m. this morning, and we'll, of course, have complete coverage of that tomorrow. Back to you.
Ought to be something to hear. Thank
Yes.
you very much, Cindy. This has been a remarkable turnaround from the situation we were reporting last night at this time. Yeltsin and his supporters under siege, tanks seemingly closing in on him.
And here's what we know of what happened during the final hours of the attempted coup. At midnight, Moscow time, some of the Army's tanks had begun to move, but it was apparently no more than isolated action by individual units. Boris Yeltsin would later say it was sometime during the night that paratroopers refused to make an attack on the Parliament building, and that may have been the final blow to the coup. By noon Wednesday, the Army's tanks were on the move out of Moscow, back to their bases. And at 7:19 p.m. Moscow time, Mikhail Gorbachev placed his call to George Bush, saying that the coup was over and Gorbachev was again in command. Just what kind of authority Gorbachev will really have after being rescued by his chief critic and the Russian people is one of the questions still waiting for an answer.
In our second look at the coup chronology, we're going to pass along what we finally found out about the coup as it started and as it progressed 3 days ago. Mike Walsher joins us with that. Mike.
Last weekend, Prime Minister Valentin Pavlov paid a visit to President Gorbachev at his vacation home in the Crimea. Pavlov urged Gorbachev to resign. Gorbachev refused. At dawn Monday in the Crimea, Gorbachev is offered a chance to agree to the emergency decree seizing his power. He refuses and is placed under house arrest, while the KGB puts barricades around his plane and helicopter. Soviet TV announces the change in leadership in a brief bulletin. The Twin Cities learn of the coup about midnight Sunday.
An apparent coup in the Soviet Union pushing Mikhail Gorbachev out of power.
Coup leaders hold a news conference at noon Monday in Moscow. Gennady Vanayev's hands shake as he declares himself the new president of the Soviet Union. Popularly elected Boris Yeltsin, the president of the biggest republic in the Union, escapes arrest at his home by minutes and holds up in the Russian parliament building. His supporters form a human ring around it, while Red Army tanks roll into Moscow. Late Tuesday, some of those tanks try to break through a barricade of buses near Yeltsin's headquarters. Citizens jump on the tanks. 4 people are killed, a dozen injured. Finally, the Yeltsin supporters torch several tanks. The attack is halted. And after that, other tank commanders defected to Yeltsin's side. The rest of the Army tanks turned around and left Moscow, the last remnants of the coup disappearing with those tanks. Colleen?
All right, thank you, Mike. Now that is what happened in the Soviet Union. Now to what President Bush had to say during the day's developments. Our reporter Esme Murphy is with the president in Kennebunkport to wrap up the day there. And Esme, the president has to be a pretty happy man this evening.
Well, definitely, Colleen. When the president first spoke to reporters here in Kennebunkport this morning, he was pretty much in the same boat as the rest of us. He was uncertain about the varied reports he was hearing out of Moscow. And he was uncertain, too, about the whereabouts and the well-being of deposed President Mikhail Gorbachev.
I will stay in touch with President Yeltsin, hopefully at some point be able to contact President Gorbachev, which we still are unable to do. But I guess I would say to the American people, these developments are positive.
Bush then went for a morning fishing trip, but just a short time later, reporters saw his boat rush back to shore. Bush took the call he'd been waiting for, Barbara Bush at his side. It was Mikhail Gorbachev saying he was well and ready to resume power.
They tried and they failed, and democracy prevailed and reform prevailed. And that's what this is all about.
For the president, today's developments are an overwhelming relief, but they do represent a new set of problems for him. First, the Soviet Union is still in a very volatile state. Mikhail Gorbachev may be back in power, but he clearly has been weakened. And finally, emerging with a new power and a new prestige is Boris Yeltsin. Starting early tomorrow morning, the president will be meeting here in Kennebunkport with key aides to discuss all these developments. His first meeting will be with Secretary of State James Baker, who will be flying in early tomorrow morning into Maine, into Kennebunkport, fresh from meeting with NATO allies in Brussels. Back to you, Colleen, in Minneapolis.
Okay, relief in Kennebunkport, and tonight many Minnesotans expressing relief at news that the Soviet coup has failed. Now, you may remember that the Soviet First Lady, Raisa Gorbachev, toured a Minneapolis drugstore during the Gorbachev's visit last year. Tonight, the employee who showed off Snyder's was happy to hear the good news about the Gorbachevs.
I was kind of surprised that it happened so soon already, that he came back home and he was freed, and I hope things turn out good.
And Minnesota farmers like Bob Cloth are smiling again. Grain prices that had plunged during the coup surged back up today in wild trading from Minneapolis to Chicago. Today's 10-cent jump for a bushel of corn suddenly makes Bob Cloth's fields worth $8,000 more than yesterday.
Nice contract, Dan Marina.
And today's news was met with welcome relief in Minnesota's Soviet Jewish community. Many who immigrated here say they're not surprised the coup failed.
But we don't know if this is the end of it. Hopefully it is.
If it's going to make any changes, it's going to be changes for good, not for worse. I'm very glad that it's over.
So for the rest of the world, the question is, what's next? The leaders of most of the individual Soviet republics are welcoming Gorbachev back to power tonight, but the question is, how much power will they allow him after this taste of freedom from the Kremlin? Analysts say the 15 republics are likely to disagree about what they can do for themselves and what they will leave for Gorbachev to do, like foreign relations.
So you can't have 10 republics working independently on foreign policy, although that seems to be what some of them want to do. You can't have a military broken up into 10 different units. But there's a lot of things that they can do independently, particularly economic. And as a matter of fact, it might be better for the whole country if they did.
Professor Von Geldern says a cure for the economy could leave the Soviet Union smaller in size, but stronger than ever. Later in Dimension, a different perspective from a visiting Soviet journalist. Coming.
And now a summary of local news. Minneapolis police are asking for help in the investigation of a brutal beating. John Johansson has been in a coma since August 6th when he was robbed and beaten after leaving the Anchor Bar in South Minneapolis. Johansson's relatives and the police want to find the woman he left the bar with that night. Another investigation into the death of a 4-year-old Brooklyn Park boy is almost over. Sean Anderson died yesterday after drowning in a pool at a special hours child care in Maple Grove. A daycare spokesperson says the pool was closed for the season but not covered. That pool was surrounded by a latched fence behind the building. And last month, we told you about Attorney General Skip Humphrey's plans to block the sale of an album to minors. He wanted the Minneapolis city attorney to prosecute Musicland stores for selling an album by NWA, Niggas with Attitudes. Well, today, the city attorney's office announced it won't prosecute because the album, taken as a whole, is not obscene.
Tomorrow morning, the gates of the State Fair will open officially, and thousands of fairgoers will pass through the gates during that 12-day run. And tonight, the final coats of paint are being put on the food booths. The fish are stocked in the DNR pond, as you see. Hay for livestock being trucked into the barns, and recycling containers are being put in place to handle the tons of garbage the fair will create. Gates will open at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning for the 1991 Great Minnesota Get-Together. We'll see you out there. Now, world events aside, the other news most Minnesotans would like to hear is, how about those twins?
How about them? The first place Marvels were at it again at the Dome tonight, and Mark Rosen is in the Sports Center with a headline highlight. There were a lot of them.
Yeah, there sure were, Kalina. This had been a heavyweight fight. They would have stopped it in the second inning. The Twins win easily 9-1. The Twins have now won 73 games. That's the best in the majors. Last year, the Twins won a total of 74 games. The Twins spotted Seattle a 1-0 first inning lead, then roared back with 6 of their own in the lower first. The Twins boosted their leading team average. Shane Mack should get most improved. Is he ever seeing the ball? Unfortunately, center fielder Ken Griffey Jr. did not, misjudging Mack's line drive and playing it into a 3-run triple. The Twins added 3 more in the first and put it in cruise control the rest of the way. Kevin Tapani coasted to his 11th win. 9-1 the final. More good news. Detroit is hammering the White Sox 8-2 in the 5th inning. So if they maintain that lead, the Twins would have a 5.5 game lead over the second place Sox. We'll update that game and have more highlights a bit later in sports.
All right, thank you, Mark. And next in Dimension, a different perspective on the coup attempt and what it'll mean for the Soviets and the world. We'll hear from a visiting Soviet journalist watching events from Minnesota.
And a story we can finally run as a sign of less important events still taking place. Yes, Oink the Singing Pig after weather forecast for the opening day of the fair.
This is the 10 o'clock news on Channel 4.
Don't start the school year off on the wrong foot. Shop at a place where you can save 30 to 70% every day on thousands of brand name school supplies. Office Max, where you'll find incredible savings on a 12-pack of Pilot stick pens featuring a comfortable ribbed grip. And get a great price on a Casio 154-function 10-digit scientific calculator. Office Max, the office supply superstore where savings is the bottom line.
Tonight in Dimension, this remarkable day in world history seen through the eyes of one Soviet citizen.
His name is Milor Starua, a Soviet journalist visiting the Twin Cities. And as he watched the coup attempt unfold, Starua burned some bridges with his homeland. He became a vocal opponent of the coup and its leaders, granting interviews to news outlets around the world. If the coup had succeeded, Milor Starua and his family would have been without a country.
We spent all day with Milor Starua, beginning early this morning, and Dave Moore has an hour-by-hour report.
It was very bad. As soon as Milor Starua wakes up, he turns on the TV. He knows today will be one of the most important days of his life.
You must fight for freedom. Do you like freedom?
Yeah.
Oh, that's why we must fight for freedom.
He's an outspoken Soviet journalist. He writes a column twice a week for Izvestia, the liberal Russian newspaper. His family has decided if the coup succeeds, they'll never return to Russia.
Because if I go to the Soviet Union under the dictatorship, they would arrest me, they would prosecute me, etc.
The stakes are high, and Mr. Starua says it's hard to describe his feelings when he sees his countrymen fighting for democracy.
Tanks, missiles, doesn't matter. Character, nerve, backbone. If you don't have it, you have lost this fight.
Milor Starua feels he's part of that fight. His job is to tell the world what's going on.
Yes, of course, I'm ready to give you an interview, but at what time?
By 10 a.m., he's already given 5 interviews. The early news is good. Tanks appear to be moving away from Moscow. But Mr. Starua can't delay. He's been asked to write a column for tomorrow's New York Times. The deadline is just 2 hours away. He rushes from his apartment, which is just a short walk from his temporary office at the Hubert Humphrey Institute. Note the sign. It seems appropriate, but Milor Starua will hammer out freedom somewhere else.
The political situation in the Soviet Union.
Starua's hammer is a computer. It takes him 45 minutes to dictate his article. It's a plea for the President of the United States to recognize Boris Yeltsin.
It is high time for President Bush to talk with the new leaders of the new Soviet Union.
The story is faxed to New York. Then Mr. Starua rushes to yet another interview. It's 1 p.m. He's got to keep moving. There are now new reports. The coup is failing.
Now I feel that freedom prevails. Freedom is on the offensive. Democracy is on the offensive. That we are not slaves anymore, that we will not swallow their dictatorship. Yes, they are falling apart, yes. So that's why I am so happy today. Yeah.
By 3 p.m., it's over. The journalist is being interviewed on the phone when he learns that Mikhail Gorbachev is back in control.
I'm very much happy, of course. But I felt that coup would fail, that it would fall apart.
And it's a good day. It's a very good day.
For Milor Starua, back at home this afternoon, the day was far more.
Today is maybe the happiest day in my life.
When the day started, Milor Starua didn't know if he'd have a country to return to. Now his family can go home, and his grandson can grow up in a free Russia.
He's 8 years old. Perestroika is 6 years old. They are almost the same age. He will live, I hope, in a free society, and he will enjoy all the fruits of this free society.
For Dimension, I'm Dave Moore.
And Milor Starua says he and his family need some time, maybe a month to recover from these last 3 days, and after that, they say they'll return to Moscow.
Now your gift with any $30 Eternity for Men purchase at Dayton's.
Well, if today was any indication, it's going to be a little hot there
Sticky.
at the State Fair tomorrow.
Well, it always is during the fair. You guys scared me, though, I have to admit. When you were plugging the stories that are coming up later, I thought for sure I was going to have to follow the singing pig.
No, the singing pig follows you.
Good.
For that, the singing pig follows him.
Well, I'll tell you, if you are heading out to the fair tomorrow, you're in luck because it's going to be an absolutely gorgeous day. We should start out at around 65 degrees, mostly sunny, and not as humid as we were today, so that means you won't have to dress down quite as much. Anyway, our weather guide today, we did make it up into the 80s. We made it up to 85 degrees, one of the warmer days we've had. In fact, I think we've only had about 6 days this month where the temperature has actually been above normal, and today was one of them. Low temperature of 59 degrees. Right outside right now, we are clear. The temperature is 73. Winds are helping out a little bit. West winds at 7 miles an hour, but really the winds have been out of the north the last few hours, and the dew point has dropped from a high of 68 today down to a low outside right now of 61 degrees. Now I've got something I've got to show you. I don't know if you'll be able to tell exactly what this is behind me. This is a card that Rose Chalman sent me from Clayton, Wisconsin. Now this is a picture from a postcard that I'm holding right here from the Great Minnesota State Fair midway between Minneapolis and St. Paul, 1908, okay? That's a long, long time ago. Look, all the women wearing long dresses, most of them are wearing hats and bonnets. There's a few umbrellas out there. I don't think it's because of the rain, I think it was because of the sun. And you can see all the men are dressed in suits and hats. No t-shirts, no shorts, no cutoffs. I know that it was 85, 90 degrees back in 1908, the same as it is this time. So hey, very, very warm day back there, and they didn't really know how to dress for it, did they? Here's what we're watching right now on radar. We've had some showers that have developed over southeastern Minnesota, moving to the southeast. Some of those produced some severe thunderstorm warnings down in Fillmore and Houston counties, all moving away from us right now. We can see that on the satellite picture. Take a look at these mostly clear skies over us, a front moving through us, and then as the front moved on through, after it was all the way through the Twin Cities, these thunderstorms popped up down in southeastern Minnesota, moving on away from us right now. Outside, skies are mostly clear off to the northwest of us. That's where our weather's going to be coming from. Tomorrow is going to be an absolutely gorgeous day, as we said, just kind of a scattering of showers down to the south and to the east. Some heavy thunderstorms right now over central and southern Florida. Out in the central part of North and South Dakota today, temperatures warmed up into the 90s. They're still in the 80s out there right now. And even though our temperatures dropped off into the low 70s, 65 degrees in St. Cloud, that warm air is going to start getting back in here. But even though we have kind of a complicated looking map, a lot of fronts, a lot of highs and lows and weather symbols on there, the main thing is the high pressure that's going to be over us tomorrow. Perhaps late in the day as these fronts combine and move on through us, we could see some thunderstorms late. But it looks like it will at least allow the temperatures to warm up into the mid to upper 80s one more time, some 90s moving in here toward the end of the weekend and into the first part of next week if you're planning what days to go to the fair. Here's what the forecast looked like for tonight. Mostly clear, 62 for a low with northwest winds 5 to 10 miles an hour. For tomorrow, partly cloudy, it'll be warm again, 85, not as humid as today, light and variable winds. Tomorrow night, just that slight chance of a thunderstorm late, 64 degrees for an overnight low, and then increasing humidity on Friday, partly sunny, 85 degrees again for a high temperature. Here's the extended outlook, give you a peek at what's going on over the weekend. First part of next week, temperatures warming back up out of the 80s into the 90s. Looks like we could have some scattered thunderstorms around on Saturday.
Just imagine the hullabaloo those folks would have caused if they had shown up in shorts.
Could you imagine what they would look like if they all showed up like this tomorrow?
Yeah. Ooh, a little steamy for them.
Really.
Thanks, Mike.
In deference to the serious events of the past 2 days, we've tastefully put on hold the yearly story of Iowa's singing pig. But because world tensions have eased, we figured it's time to break out that story as a way of sort of getting back to normal. The featured performer at this year's Iowa State Fair is Oink the Singing Pig, who warms up the crowd with some of her other skills, like running hurdles, or skidding down slides, or pushing the baby carriage along. But it's singing these Iowans turn out for.
Well, everybody, and on this farm he had a pig, E-I-E-I-O, with a here and a there, here a, there a, everywhere a. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, big finish, a bump, ba-ba-dum, bump. Oh, that's Oink the Singing Pig. Thank you very much.
How about them twins? Oh, they're really on a roll.
24 games over 500 right now. That's their high water point of the year, and no comeback needed tonight. The Twins spanked Seattle early and often en route to that 9-1 win. The Twins scoring 6 runs in the first inning after the first 2 men were out. Shane Mack continues to raise his average on a daily basis. He's now over .310. It's looked like a routine line drive out, but All-Star Ken Griffey Jr., whoops, was caught in no man's land, and instead of getting out of the inning without a run, Mack's misjudged triple drove in 3, and you could just feel Seattle sagging already. Ken Herbick extended his hitting streak to 10 straight. Herbie has really improved his stroke against left-handed pitching, and if the Twins' big guy continues at this pace, they will run away with the West. Mack, meanwhile, is having a career year. He's hitting close to .400 in his last 25 games, spraying the ball all over the field. This 2-run double made it 8-1 Twins, and Mack had 5 RBIs by the second inning. Meanwhile, Kevin Tapani has been a model of consistency. 8 quick innings, his 11th win. Tapani and his wife are expecting their first child any day. And he liked the fact that the Twins put 6 runs on the board in that first inning tonight.
You almost got too much rest in the first inning there, didn't you?
I thought it was kind of quick. You know, it's kind of nice after giving up a run. You know, it's a bad way to start out the game, putting them, you know, before we even come to bat, we're already behind, but, you know, they came right back, got, you know, more than enough runs for the game tonight, and, you know, that's a good feeling.
Well, Bo is sort of back. The Chicago White Sox announced that Bo Jackson will join their Sarasota Class A farm team this weekend with hopes of him being able to play his way back to the Major League roster, preferably before September the 1st. But the White Sox need more than Bo. They need better pitching. Tonight, Mickey Tettleton hit a home run. In Chicago, Detroit is fighting its own division race. The Tigers scored 5 times in the 5th inning. Cecil Fielder has added his 35th home run. It is a rout as we speak, 11-3 in the 6th. The Twins would lead the White Sox by 5.5 if this continues. Detroit could be a game and a half out because Toronto was shut out by Milwaukee 3-0. Elsewhere, Oakland leading California in the 4th inning 1-0. Baltimore over Texas 4-3 in the 7th inning. Cleveland and Boston, the Red Sox won that first game, but Roger Clemens was trailing in the second one. Unfortunately, no score there in New York and Kansas City. In the National League, Los Angeles behind Darryl Strawberry's 7 RBIs defeated San Diego 9-5. Atlanta and Cincinnati tied in the 10th inning at 9 apiece. Pittsburgh losing to Philadelphia 6-5. St. Louis winning the first. The Mets winning the second game 3-0. Actually, that's in the 7th inning as we speak right now. Chicago and Montreal 2-1 Cubs in the 8th inning, and Houston leading San Francisco 8-4 in the 6th. Well, yesterday the Vikings made their first cuts. Next week they will make their biggest roster decisions. At wide receiver, there is one newcomer who is really making that decision a very difficult one. His name is Terry Obie, and he shined against Cincinnati on Saturday night with his routes, his speed, and his ability to catch the ball in coverage. He is a bubble player, meaning don't be surprised if he's cut or on the roster. A stressful situation Obie is dealing with.
I didn't really worry about it because I'm just trying to go out and play the best I can. I'm more relaxed because I was with Seattle last year and I had a little preseason. I did pretty well, so I know pretty much how it goes. You just need to play and pray.
Yeah, who's that good looking? Reminder that Rosa Sports Sunday will start 10:30 Sunday night. Henry Thomas, Herschel Walker will be live in our studio. We'll have that Vikings game, by the way, right here on CCO Friday night. That will be televised here on CCO, 7 o'clock.
All right, Mark, thank you.
And we'll be right back.
Target back to school tip number 15. Some games shouldn't be played at school. But if you come to Target for back to school, you can play the nickname game, where you can enter to win a spot on a Nickelodeon production, or one of thousands of other prizes. The nickname game. It's at Target.
We're fortunate enough because we stayed on late enough tonight to show you something we didn't expect to see until about 2 o'clock this morning. We've got pictures of Mikhail Gorbachev taped off of Soviet TV. These are pictures being broadcast live now by CNN, so we've switched to CNN. It is Mikhail Gorbachev somewhere in the Soviet Union, we're not sure, but we presume in Moscow, still dressed in what appears to be his vacation garb as he was in the Crimea, and he is at the airport right now, so he is probably, perhaps, on his way home from the airport at this moment, because this is taped.
But they lost.
Looking very tired, but very relieved.
But back.
Thanks for joining us tonight.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
These are tonight's headline stories on the 10 o'clock news.
The Twins open an 11-game homestand tonight with some outstanding plays.
The search goes on for an escaped convict in Sherburne County near Elk River.
And a former state senator is killed. Police say he may be the victim of hate against gays. That's tonight's lead story.